Ladies and gentlemen, 7th SME Breakfast, and I want to say that it has been a roller coaster the last 6 years or so. When I took over the economy in 2019, we were 79.6 billion Kina economy. The economy at 2018, we posted negative 0.3% in as far as our GDP growth was concerned. So we were, if you look at economic statistics, don't believe just James Marape. Go to World Bank, IMF, ADB, and go to the central bank statistics and data, you will see. We were on a decline from the high in 2014, when we posted above 8% growth. We were in decline until we pulled on the handbrakes in 2019. We pulled on the handbrakes in 2019 and we came on board. We had a special focus on few fronts we felt were absolutely necessary to resuscitate the economy. And the last 6 years was never easy, especially the last 5 years. We went straight into COVID-19 in 2020, lest we forget. A once in a hundred year pandemic. But in every crisis, there are opportunity. And I want to point out right from the outset. In every crisis, there are opportunities. Opportunities are bound for those who care to look out and seize the moment. We seized that moment to refinance and restructure our budgets. We entered into a strategic focus. For me personally, I informed my treasurer. Take us to a series of deficit budgets. Firstly, refinance our heavy, expensive borrowings that we took under the last administration. We had a couple of heavy commercial borrowings. It's documented on record. It's not just Marape speaking. You ask anyone, they will tell you. For instance, the Credit Suisse 2-year borrowing. We have a black label against us on a debt we must repay all in 2028. It was PNG sovereign borrowing that then pressed our went on the road. Also borrowed about $500 million to finance 2017 budget. And so all these things, there's heavy borrowing in the book. We had to borrow cheaply from reliable, trustworthy, consensual multilateral lenders like World Bank, IMF, ADB. And I want to say thank you to these three lenders who are still amidst us. They've been partners to us for many, many years. Without them, we would not have stabilized our economy that is happening. Let me say thank you to them. The reason was simple. We went out to restructure our government books. As you know, most of you in the business, you have to borrow cheaply to refinance expensive debt you carry, and so you have some breathing space. That's exactly what we did. I speak to you, I'm off screen now, but I'm speaking to you so that you all are informed. Despite them, it's also media voices that are out there in this space. Excuse me, I have a nasty cold I've been carrying the last week. A result of not too many hours of sleep and not believing in taking cough mixes. Two dangerous combinations for me, but in any case, that's the work that I do these days. And so we had to restructure our national books, borrow cheaply, get out of some expensive commercial loans that we were carrying in the books, refinance our national debt, and focus on 2019, I was focused to take us to 2022 with deficit budget as a tool, and COVID-19 assisted us in a big way, so that's what I mean by seizing the opportunity. With COVID-19 coming around, debt distressed economies, and especially good economies, good nations, with IMF, World Bank, and ADB, they were able to come in with especially tailored lending to finance our key infrastructures, including getting us out of possible economic quagmire. I want to also appreciate Australian government in a big way, and Japanese government. Japanese government gave us, in one of the bilateral visits I made to Japan, and Foreign Minister Motegi visited me here in Port Moresby. He went back and lended us $280 million at 0.01% interest. If someone is to lend you $280 million at 0.01% interest, will you pick it up or you will not pick it up? I had to pick this up to repay a $330 million loan we had, a credit suisse loan that was borrowed at 8.8% interest. And so this was some of the tough work we had to do behind the scene to keep our economy afloat. Government, in tough times, government borrows to pass on the borrowing to the economy, so the business is spending. Business has money to pocket. If we don't do this, we go on a massive compression and recession. And so that was what we had to do to keep ourselves afloat. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. All you have to ask is, you ask BSP. BSP in the last 3 years returned the highest ever declaration of dividend to shareholders. Where did BSP get its money from? Who is the biggest spender in the economy? In tough times, government must find ways to raise money for its budget and through the budget process, spin it out to the economy. Whether it's through capital investment, or through free education, or through asset rescue. Last 5 years, we have put out 29 billion kina in infrastructure spending and capital investments throughout the economy. And I want to say thank you to all our taxpayers. Most of you are in this room as SMEs and different scales of business in our country. I want to say thank you to the super funds, including TISA. I want to say thank you to our multilateral lenders and our bilateral lenders like Japan and Australia. Australia lended us every year. And for the first time in as many years, since the last 3 years, Australia has lended directly to budget support. And over 6 billion kina worth of support Australia has given us the last 6 years. We invite them now. That all in all kept government as the biggest spender in the economy. That is why today, as I speak to you, we are pushing towards 130 billion kina economy. From a 79.6 billion kina economy I took in 2019, we're now pushing towards 130 billion kina economy, pushing past that. Hopefully, we should cap off around 134, 35 billion by the end of this year. If not, a little bit less. But you all know I'm chasing the magic number in as far as our focus is concerned. We want to be a 200 billion kina economy. At the very earliest, our people don't wait. Historically, our country has a track record of more babies than growing the economy. If you ask NRI has got a publication that we released in 2010. It's called From 1975 to 2008. In their study of the first 27 years of our nation's life. And please, I encourage all educated public in this. Don't just believe in so-called think tank Facebook in the postings. Just go and read credible publications. Because credible publications have data and the authority of the name behind to stand the test of scrutiny. So in credible publications, they will give you enough informed data for you to use to pass rational judgments. So when NRI wrote that book in 2010, a series of authors, some from ANU and all around, they posted that for the first 27 years of our nation's life, the first 33 years of our nation's life, we were growing babies at a rate of about 3% a year, and we were growing the economy at a rate of 0.03% a year. It's the first 33 years of our nation's life, and that's from 1975 to 2008. The reason I'm putting this up in my speech is that the problems we have today has compounded because the economy has been growing so slowly and the babies has been growing so fast. All right, if you take back your mind back to 1975, $1 billion economy or 5 billion kina economy. Population a little over 3 million people. land size, bigger than Japan, bigger than New Zealand, bigger than the island of Great Britain. Island of Great Britain, only one language they speak. New Zealand, only two languages, the Maori language and English. Japan, possibly only one language, over 1,000 years of settled civilization and peace. For us, 1975, before that, Taris never knew that nippers exist. Just next door in the mountain, they never knew that nippers exist. Okay. If Taris never knew nippers exist, they never knew manus exist, except a few missionaries who came in. One of the Bugadan missionaries that adopted my father in 1955. So, we were diverse nations stitched together by the Somali generation, 1975, over 3 million people, very, very small economy, bigger land. You know the land I mentioned, bigger than New Zealand or Japan or UK? You can see right now, Google, these three countries in PNG. PNG is 462,840 square kilometers all in all. All in all. So it's stacked up. Everything seemed negative. The only gift at 1975, good constitution, good system of government, friendly bilateral partners, Australia, Japan, China, USA, European Union, of course ADB, World Bank and IMF were amongst us right through. By the time we arrived in 2008, lucky the Somali government had a stable 9 years of running. They gave us PNG Origin project. That became the underlying basis, the impetus for this next wave of growth. That is giving us some breathing space, but that is not enough. Population production still remains very high. This census that we are doing is pointing us towards 12 million people. And so it must be a haste that all of us work to a 200 billion Guinea economy that I stated in 2019 when I became Prime Minister. So the work towards 200 billion Guinea economy must be something that all of us must work. The banking sector, central bank, government departments like SME Corporation, and all of us in country. United Nations will help, Australia will help, Japan will help, ADB will help, IMF will help, but they're doing it out of goodwill as good global citizens. But for you and me as Papua New Guineans, it is our core duty. It is our call to work. It is our responsibility that wherever we are placed, don't look at someone else's talent and gift, but look at what God has gifted you to do in your space of influence and sphere of influence. Don't sit and complaining about someone else's job. Do your job first before you complain about someone else's job. This time in our country's history calls for Papua New Guineans who believe they can do and not they cannot do. I look back into time the last 50 years, I am inspired by a Somali generation who had absolutely little, but they moved mountains. Here today in 2025 with 130 billion Guinea economy almost, with government policy that enables you to get out there and get into doing work, and not waiting to be employed, but create employment. Many educated Papua New Guineans choose to squander time in doing little, if not nothing. And I want to say thank you to those of you in this room. You are the can-do people. That's why I've spent the last 6 budget SME breakfast to be with you, because you are the can-do people. I look into this room and I see, if I name most of you I know, I will take the entire money, and I want to say thank you to all of you sitting here. Sitting amongst us is one young man. I've mentioned his name a few times, but I'll not mention this time around. He picked up a government policy on agriculture. In 2020, he was in another business, doing very well in another business, but he comes from a land of ancestors who were in coffee business, or not ancestors, his parents who were in coffee business. And he picked up our focus on agriculture, more so on coffee. Government at the time, under my words, we announced the freight support and the price support. The Price goes down, government price will kick in, and I did make mention it must be at 16 always for coffee. This young man went it out, not even asking government to help. He went out on his own. Today he brings back into the country over $100,000 every week. 4 years old, 5 years old. Just imagine, if we have 1,000 Papua New Guineans, 1,000 maybe too big, 100 Papua New Guineans in coffee or cacao export. And very soon we are reviewing the export licensing regime. And I make apologies, but if you're a resident Papua New Guinea, if you bring the money back, we'll give you license. You keep your money offshore, and you can be a citizen or resident, but you must be the money must come back. The reason why we unpegged the artificial pegging of Kenya in 2015 and allow Kenya to be on the market on its own value. And Kenya drops little, they bring back more US dollar, Australian dollar, Chinese renminbi into the country. And it's targeted to encourage for export production. When the Somali government has gifted us land, in 1975 when the tariffs were not yet conscious to national policy, the Constitution at that time wrote that land must belong to state. Today you would have land owned by state. But the greatest gift the Somali government has given us in 1975, they allowed land to remain in the hands of the people. The greatest asset, apart from the life you have, is land. Land belongs to you. Yet we don't want to venture out. And this young fellow, I just made mention of, he brings about $100,000 back into the country. And 100 of companies bring $100,000 back every week. The mathematics, how much is that? 100 Papua New Guineans, 100,000 Papua New Guineans, 10,000 Papua New Guineans, bring 100,000 numbers into meeting. So, it is worthy to encourage one another to be in the space of peace. The last 5 years, some of the policies we worked on and are in the public space, and I absorbed my partners and those who out there. Let me just go through some of the list that I said and I was writing down. We launched the credit guarantee scheme currently in operation that assists you with the collateral aspect in the need for borrowing. That is a policy pronounced and a program assisted that is in public space, central bank as custody of this. With SME lending, we are partnering with especially our two banks. We also have state equity, put aside. That policy will be further tailored so the state can partner businesses and not to take away a business, but if you need capital, especially businesses that is geared towards import replacement businesses, like rice, that we should be growing, but we still importing, like beef and sheep that we should be producing here, but we still importing. So those in the import replacement business, state equity funding is set aside. Minister Marape is the driver of this. Very soon we'll be announcing a major partnership with a major fishing company in country to make all fish caught in our country be domesticated here, to be processed here, and to be sold out as processed finished product. We have the freight and price support. I want to apologize. It's still not being tidied. Government intention has been announced. Department's concerns are slow in getting the work up, but the intention is simple. We want to buy coffee where it's been produced, cacao where it's been produced, and all the produces where it's been produced, we assist in freight. And if the price drops, we want to stabilize the prices so we pay at a good price. So that's in terms of that, the funding has been allocated to the Agriculture Department. It's been worked on as we speak. Central bank reform, we've reformed the central bank. We now have a board that overlays and oversights on the central bank operations. Take nothing away from the management, but the reform that was made in 1991, we lived this time. The economy in 1990, the economy was in 2001. The economy in 2001 was an economy still under 17 billion kina. Today the economy is a loaded economy of 100 billion, going up. We need to reform the central bank, take nothing away from the management, but we working with our international partners. There was a recommendation that came strong, and also with the IGARA commit, the advisory team that looked at the central bank, they reported that there needs to be a board placed on top of the central bank management. So our board is now in place, and the board also gives policy directions away from treasury, away from the government, on its own, having its own mindset, looking after the management. And part of the work that is happening now, instruction has gone to create more banks in our country. That's why TISA Bank, you are in country now, so thank you to much TISA Bank. Since the last time I addressed you and now back here, we have TISA Bank operating, and we got 2 more other banks, I think, operating, the women's banks coming online, etc. So those are working. But more importantly, also, central bank has been asked, for those of you who trade with China, we are now working to make sure you don't convert to US dollar. You can PNG and yuan renminbi convertibility is being worked on, so you can just PNG kina, and the Chinese currency is a currency of trade between goods in and out of PNG of China. So this is a big work on as we speak. China with Australia are 2 of our biggest trading partners. China has given us the phytosanitary clearance, so any produces from PNG, the agricultural sector and food sector, can find this market into China. So a big market, 1.4 billion people in China has opened their market to us. When I travel the world, don't think I'm just playing golf, traveling the world, meeting those leaders. In the core of those discussions is for me, as the #1 salesman for my country, telling them of my produces, my oil, gold, gas, coffee, etc. So thank you for picking up on these policies, and very soon I'll be doing another round of travels. Hopefully in the course of my travels, we could be advocating for our products. Last time I was with the Chinese president at the Great Hall of China, he told me, I got no problem, you can sell to me, but you're not producing enough. He told me, China is like a big ocean. Anything you send them is consumed, but you're not producing enough. And so for landowners out there, don't wait to be a landowner of oil and gas to claim yourself landowner. You're already a landowner. Produce from the cow and everything else. They can produce. What most important here is the biggest import port. 95% import, only 5% export. Meaning half the time the asset is sitting there doing nothing. I asked the Heritama Highway people and Maki Highway people, you have a good highway that fits this place. Why is it sitting there waiting only for Buai? Get into production and export to the port we have just in front of us. We've also reformed the courthouse. I want to indicate to all of you, working with the Chief Justice, the court has been reformed. You asked me, why do I speak about court reform in a business breakfast? All of you in business know you sign contracts, you sign agreements. You want to operate in a country that has a fair court. And so our work in the court is a business strategy as much as a social strategy. Having a fair court system, having a working court system, having a quicker court system will enable you to have trustworthiness in operating in that country. So far, the court has carried us thus far. I want to say thank you to the 5 Chief Justices who's carried our country up to this point in time. Our present Chief Justice is under his medication. Let's give him enough prayers. They have held the country in their own space. And you invite him out of 5 Chief Justices from the country to become. Working with the present judiciary, we have agreed, and they have proposed, and we have agreed. It is important because they see they carry a lot of backlogs. With limitation of judges now, we have uplifted the ceiling of judges in the country from 40 to a minimum float of 60 to 200, so we can have more judges in the country. And we're also getting judges from outside, not only Papua New Guinea-based judges, but we're getting judges from New Zealand, from Australia, from Africa, from Hong Kong, because of the Hong Kong's judiciary is similar to us, and they understand the Asian business culture. We're also getting proposed to get judges from Singapore, and as federal as Canada, UK, those Commonwealth jurisdictions. So they would come and sit in our court system with international banks that gives us an ability to adjudicate on matters. In our country today, we have a court that handles a lot of different diversity of matters. We felt that the new structure would handle this, and in between the Supreme Court. By this time next year, we'll have Supreme Court only attending to Section 18, Section 19 matters, as far as our constitution is concerned, and a very selected to an appeals process, selected reference on appeals matter. Mr. Query, you are the lawyer or something, so you will know these things. And we will insert the input in Supreme Court and National Court, an appeals court. So they will be headed by different judges who will head those three-tier court system, and a CJ that sits up at the top, just as the administrator of the judicial arm of our country. So there's a reform going on in the judicial space to support business, society in a 21st century that is more litigious than ever. We also bring into the fray international arbitration into our judicial system. So we don't need to just go to Singapore. For example, if someone has a dispute with someone else in the business space, instead of going to court, you can use arbitration to resolve your dispute also. That has been worked upon to come to the economy. It gives our country an economy the comfort of having a robust, strong, independent judicial system to dispense with disputes, business-to-business dispute, etc., or society disputes amidst us. On top of this, I've delivered my commitment for ICAC when I first became PM. The Independent Commission Against Corruption has now finally been established. I want to say thank you to Transparency International, who's been with us in the setup of ICAC. And if you think James Marape is setting something on the wayside, just as Mr. Atsi of Transparency International, we've given them the task of setting, especially the administrative structure of ICAC. They're fully aware of how it's set up. I do apologize for the personality conflicts that Karen is running. A personality must go, but the institution must live on. And I'll be working to fix it. But ICAC comes in, and it's an economic strategy. What is the point of me growing the economy, or us growing the economy, if the sinkholes remain bigger? So we need to patch up the sinkholes. The sinkholes of corruption needs to be patched up. That's where ICAC and law and order does a second work. And of course, the police lately has recruited, for instance, in the anti-corruption, anti-fraud section. Head of anti-fraud is now in Australia. There's no relation to any one of us making the place. This one I put to this breakfast meeting just to give you the comfort. And while we work the economic space to grow the economic sector, we're tidying the areas of loopholes in our system. So you work business space on the merit and competence of your work. You owe no one any favor. You owe no one any someone else who asks you for a favor, etc. You can report it to ICAC, you can report it to police, and a competent court system deals with it. So we have an economy that is healthy. Eliminating the stage of corruption, the stage of theft, etc. that has been part of our country's life for many years, and all of you can prosper going forward. Other policies we have, Lands Department has a robust program in terms of land registration, and we also put money every year for land acquisition. We know our country, the world is getting urbanized. We want to tidy our urban area in terms of living space. And if someone go down to Tuhava, and so any one of you been to Tuhava. And for those businesses who, I hope the Tuhava guys are here. It's a wonderful story that has emerged. Tuhava state has no involvement in it as far as putting that money to buy the land. We don't want to buy the land, but we're here to assist you register your customary land. You register back to your own ILG, it's properly registered, it becomes a bankable document, and you can start into doing business, whether it's real estate like the two other guys, or commercial agriculture, etc., etc. So we work with the lands department to register, work with landowners to register all their lands if they want to register. It is not compulsory, but the facility is available. If you feel you own a land and you want to be recognized, go to the lands department. And if someone asks me for a favor to do their job, they say, let the Prime Minister and myself know. We on call 24 hours to tidy to get things done. And that program, in my view, is a good program. Something that I will announce, if not this year, sometimes next year. It's along all the major roads we open up. The Highlands Highway, for instance, from Najab to Leh, Najab to Leh and Najab to Hagen, as an example. The landowners are there perpetually. Their parents will be there, they're there today, their children will be there on the side of the road. So, Mr. Said, we will ask if the landowners want to register land, they register the land. We are looking for partner banks. If this land is registered against this family, and if they want to borrow money to build a rest house, build a service station, build a resort, etc., along the major roads, then you lend to them, government will overlay intergenerational guarantees. If they default, then one generation down the line, the land can become a state land, and this one, a family can say, all right, we have tried our best, but we can't. But we want to do a remodeling and intergenerational lending, 1-2 generations. That public who own the land can borrow money to, if not do business, then improve his or her own life. So land policy is something we're looking on seriously. Our people on land, the biggest collateral anywhere in the world you go is land. Our people, 97% of land belongs to them, yet it's not being monetized. So we're looking at this policy, and the 2-hour model is a good model for those who live around towns, cities, and for the agricultural land and others. We're looking in the first instance to work with those who live alongside all our major roads. They're there forever. And talk about major roads, one of our country's best tourism drive would be Alatau to Port Moresby. And some of you who have a free weekend in August, I'll be driving myself from here down to Alatau. And for the first time, we can drive to Alatau. Do my one talks in Central and Marape, fear not. We make sure along the roads we put in police, and we make sure you don't just fire sell your land, you keep your land properly, register your land yourself to your family and clan, and you can work with your members, your governors, and the national government to make sure you're moving in agriculture, fisheries, etc. To Central, there's an example coming out of Kupiano. There's a family now selling crab, mud crab for the first time on Papua New Guinea to Singapore. They've been doing consistently now for almost a year now. So it's happening as we speak. It's happening for those who want to do work. For those who want to be crybabies and remain on Facebook, etc., you remain crybaby. James Marape will still be here, I can tell you this. I can tell you this. All right, and some of the other, I'm taking a little bit of time. Some of the other policies we have in place, we remove taxes from those who are earning under 20,000 kina. I know it lasts mostly in the SME space because most of the employees are paid under 20,000 kina. So we remove personal income tax from those who are earning under 20,000 kina. A class of low-income earners. James Marape belongs to the class of low-income earners. I come from a family with low income earning. My parents were low-income earners. Myself, before I became a politician, was a low-income earner. So that's my class. I'm proud to be part of that class. You remove tax from them. You don't pay any personal income tax now. And I had to argue with Montreal. We said when that policy, I don't want to claim credit for this policy. Some advisors in my trust said, we're losing this much revenue. And I said, Mr. Economist, I'm not an economist, but I know my people better than you know my people. I can safely tell you that you take tax out from them, you will see an increase spike in GST. They'll be spending again to buy household consumers. And so 1 year later, I called the same economist and said, check your data in terms of how we're doing with GST and tax. And so enough, there was a spike in GST because the people who were now taking back additional 60 kina in their pocket were buying the additional food, a rice and a tea fees. Before it was just rice because of tough times. We gave the 60 kina break to them, spending back in the economy. Why am I saying this? It's a link to you. This policy must mean that as they're spending, SMEs on the floor must be picking up the spending. You clear? There's a cycle. Money, so for 1 kina, you want it to pass more than 1 hands. 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands. That's a direct strategy for those really at the floor level. And I asked the Taris, for instance, why are you allowing people to build a tackle box in 9 Mile? I'm using Taris as an example because they will not be offended. I'm them. Maybe someone else is very offended. So I was telling the studies, why are you building tackle box at 9 Mile? And then you get a Bangladesh, no offense to Bangladesh among us. Please come in and go to the major business. Don't go to the tackle box. You're going to stop it soon. Why you like the Bangladesh to go into tackle box and say, sit in the tackle box and you running around like a big man and talking politics and talking the secret. You collecting rent, 2,000 kina a month, 3,000 kina a month. Yet the Bangladesh sits there like you're a slave. Guess what? He's not a slave, he's making more money than you are making. Because he's putting in more than 12 hours a day into the tackle box. And he's just putting 1 hour a day into work. Collecting, time for us to incubate companies who think to work in the land. So I want to say government is putting money into the economy through all these policies. The tax break we gave. And last year when we worked on removing tax GST from 13 household items. So again, putting a little bit back into the pockets. These gains must go back and percolate into SMEs in our society. The taxi drivers, the small retailers, all these small SMEs, you must be out there to attract and trap back this money that should come back to you for some of these incentives that we are giving. In any case, I can go on and on. I want to also say something. We are reforming the education sector. Last 5 years, we brought back 100,000 school dropouts into second chance learning. So the full system. We're making a policy now, and I want to say thank you to the Australian government, UN. You hear again from me, thank you for the labour mobility program. But we don't want to get only refraps to go to Australia. We want to make sure you have a grade 12 certificate and a pastor's reference. Pastor's reference. Don't care which church. Catholic, AOG, SDA, you have on WhatsApp, it doesn't matter. A pastor's reference and a grade 12 certificate. So we send educated and well-mannered companies down there, and state government will overlay with the possible sponsorship you work down there, and then we could put you into schools there to fill in some specialist needs that may emerge in Australia, easy emerge in Australia. I was with the Minister for last week, Pat Conroy. We had good conversation. Prime Minister Albanese and Deputy Prime Minister, there's a need emerging in the labour workforce in Australia. We want to also groom good Papua New Guineans go down there and study, work, or if not, come back with the important skills and fill in the SME gap in here. As I grow the economy to a 200 million plus, we want to have skilled companies available in the SME space. When someone asked me, your MTD before said, you must have 1 million jobs created. And I was questioned by a colleague on the floor of Parliament in the opposite. And he laughed at me and Mr. Prime Minister, how will you create 1 million jobs through this MTD before? And I said, my friend, your definition of employment completely differs with my definition of employment. Your definition of employment is sitting at a desk from 8 o'clock to 4 or 6, or working on an employment in a company from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. My definition of employment is productive economic engagement. The citizen must be productively earning and cash earning the time he or she lives in our country. So the question, the rationale is simple. I want to mobilize 1 million families in our country. Right now, these million families are somewhere working hand to mouth, mostly from the subsistence economy. And we want to mobilize this million family. In a nation of almost 12 million people, easily we have about 3 million to 4 million families. Of this, only 1 million family can come out and migrate to the cash economy. on their own land in agriculture. 20 bags of cacao these days will earn you 15 to 20,000 kina. 20 bags of cacao these days will earn you 15 to 20,000 kina. You ask Mr. Wood, for instance, he's got a statistics. Don't believe me? I'm going to ask him. 20,000 kina can be earned with 40 bags of coffee. 40 bags of coffee. And so it goes on. Targeting oil palm. The oil palm minister has a plot in Kibe. The Honorable Manake has a plot in Kibe, 100 hectares of oil palm plot. Guess what he earns every month? 150,000 kilo every month. And so this 1 million family I'm looking for have land behind them. If on their land they could be engaged in productive engagements, then the money that we need to generate for our country and for the families generated and all of us prosper. So the potential remains abound. The question at the 50th anniversary, do we have workers? We're not in a sermon for me to quote a Bible verse, but it goes like this. The harvest is plenty, but workers are few. The harvest is plenty, but workers, that's what it is. And I want to ask Papua New Guineans today, ask God what your country can do for you. Find a place in our country. Find a space in our country. Join the SME movement. If there are things that government must do to assist you better, we only a call or email and advice away. Criticize us, but criticize us with the solutions. Offer the solutions. We're here to listen. It is our country together. And Somali government birthed our country in 1975. They saw a democratic, prosperous country where no one is to be left behind. The fundamental values of our country is deeply entrenched in our nation's 8-point plan, in our nation's constitution, that says for equal opportunity for all, irrespective of race, gender, religion, tribe, wherever you come from. We have been a resident of Papua New Guinea the last 45, 50 years. I want to say thank you, you're part of us. And you and your children must live with us forever going forward. All instrumentalities of government must have an element of fairness for all to prosper in our country. We look at deregulation without compromising integrity, compromising transparency and good governance. And we want our country to be a prosperous country. I believe as we are placed here in this part of the world, in a world that is hotly contested elsewhere, with violence, with sovereign contest, with many of the trade barriers that is happening elsewhere, in our Pacific, working with Australia and New Zealand, and of course Indonesia, Papua New Guinea being an associate and soon to be member of ASEAN, Papua New Guinea being a member of PIF, Papua New Guinea being a member of APEC, but more importantly with our trade links to our bilateral relationship with almost 11 or 12 of the big economies of the world. Talk about USA, talk about the second biggest, USA number one, second biggest economy in China, third biggest economy in Japan, fourth biggest economy, in my view, right now, is elsewhere, but fourth biggest economy soon to be, in my view, would be either India or Indonesia going in the next 20 years. These two nations will remain very, very big. The economic combustion in Southeast Asia, growing at 6% every year. The combined Southeast Asian economy should be a sign of encouragement that Papua New Guinea producers can find their way in markets closer to us than some of our competitors elsewhere. So I want to encourage all of you, think big, but more importantly, walk the small steps that you need to walk healthily. And we will work with the banking sector to ensure that they're working to assist you, and together, side by side with government policy and our private sector, including our banks, we could all prosper beyond our 50 years, securing the future for our children. May God bless each and every one of you, to all our SME believers who are here and participate, to encourage to remain firm in whatever you're doing. And don't be like the tourists who stay at Nagmad and put in tackle box and allowing Sri Lankans and others to come and rent. Just make yourself. Make yourself work hard, and you can prosper, and the country prospers in prosperity. May God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, TISA Bank. I look forward to you. More blessing. The rest of unbanked. And to all the teachers who are members of TISA Bank, you've produced this country to be what we are today. In the hands of our teachers, we are really modernized. God bless all the teachers nationwide, and to TISA Bank, you have the 1 million unbanked family out there. Look for them, work with us, we partner you, looking for them, and you too can prosper. God bless.